welcome those that are online and present by phone. And will the Secretary please call the roll?
Vice Chair Dondero-Loop.
Here.
Senator Hardy.
Here.
Senator Hammond.
I am here.
Senator Lang.
Here.
Senator Buck.
Here.
Senator Danyate.
And I'm here.
Chair Dennis.
I'm here. Thank you. So we have everyone is here. Please, we do have a quorum, and everybody's here. So for those on the video, please keep yourself muted when not speaking. And you can, our committee information is available on Nellis, which can be accessed through the legislature's website. You can also watch through Nellis or YouTube. If providing public comment, register to participate through Nellis, and you'll get an email confirmation with the call-in information. Also, detailed instructions for participating are available on the help page linked in the banner at the top of every page in Nellis. And when testifying, spell your name and affiliation, if any. We'll take public comment at the end, and I will limit that to 2 minutes. And then feel free to also submit your full comments in writing and briefly summarize them in spoken testimony. You may submit written comments as outlined on the agenda. And with that, we have 2 bills to hear today. And we are going to start with Senate Bill 151. So I'm going to open the hearing on Senate Bill 151. And this measure, let's see. Senator Dondero-Loop is going to present it, and it relates to education requiring boards of trustees in certain districts to develop a plan to improve certain pupil to personnel ratios, and requiring trustees, board of trustees, to submit annual report of their plans, and so it's got various things, and Senator Dondero-Loop will bring us up to speed on what it does, and we'll ask questions after she's done. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Chair Dennison, and welcome to everyone. For the record, I am Marilyn Dondero-Loop, representing Senate District 8 in Clark County, and I'm pleased to present Senate Bill 151 for your consideration today, which builds upon our previous efforts to increase the number of certain specialized personnel in our public schools. The personnel I am focusing on today are the behavioral and mental health professionals who work in our schools, counselors, psychologists, and social workers. To this end, last session, we required the State Board of Education to examine best practices for staffing and developing non-binding recommendations for the ratio of pupils to teach of these specialized personnel groups. These professionals bring to their positions years of education and training. They are dedicated to ensuring that all students in Nevada have access to quality education and the support they need to grow, learn, and feel safe. Yet they are often subject to working conditions that limit their opportunity to provide services to Nevada's public school children. For example, counselors are trained to assist students with academic and career planning and personal and social development. But due to staffing shortages, their duties are often focused on administering standardized tests, supervising lunchrooms, acting as substitute teachers, and making attendance phone calls. Similarly, school psychologists are experts in education and psychology. They are qualified mental health professionals who work with students in crisis. They have specialized training to improve the school climate as a prevention measure. They are able to develop prevention strategies in mental health, substance abuse, bullying, and delinquency. However, they are most assigned to assess children for special education services and develop individualized education plans. School social workers are licensed by the Board of Examiners for Social Workers, and they are trained to implement small groups, intervention strategies, and identify more intensive interventions for individual students. They target multiple risk factors in home, school, and community settings and identify warning signs of violent behavior. They also work to provide support with a crisis. What do school counselors and psychologists and social workers have in common? They are all qualified mental health professionals who are often underutilized for their primary purposes in our public schools. In addition, Nevada's public schools are understaffed in these professions. Even the United States Department of Education listed all three areas as experiencing shortages in personnel. According to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, even before COVID-19, approximately 1 in 6 children in the United States experienced a mental health disorder each year. And the National Association of School Psychologists estimates that up to 60% of students do not receive the treatment they need. Data shows that it is critical to reach students when they are young, as more than half of the mental health challenges begin prior to the age of 14. According to the Education Commission of the States, federal data suggests that school counselors, psychologists, and social workers might confront overwhelming caseloads as the pandemic continues. I think we all recognize the COVID-19 pandemic has significantly increased the demands for the services of our school counselors, psychologists, and social workers. The impact of isolation due to remote learning has magnified the urgent concerns about student safety and well-being. And I think we can all agree that we need this group of trained professionals now more than ever. In its 2020 statewide plan for the improvement of pupils, the State Board of Education recommended the following non-binding best practice ratios. For school counselors, 1 per 250 students. For school psychologists, 1 per 500 to 700 pupils. And for school social workers, 1 per 250 pupils. Needless to say, Nevada does not have the personnel needed to meet those staffing ratios. Most alarming, our current ratios of school-based mental health professionals to students are 4 to 5 times greater than the nationally recommended ratios. The data provided in the report by the State Board of Education concludes that statewide, we would need an additional 819 counselors, 649 school psychologists, and 1,395 social workers. Now that we know the scope of our problem, what are our next steps? Senate Bill 151 contains 2 major components to address these next steps. The first of these is contained in Section 1 of the bill. The Board of Trustees in Nevada's largest school districts, Clark and Washoe, are required to develop a plan to accomplish 2 objectives. The plan should describe how the district will improve the ratio of pupils to the group of personnel in order to achieve the ratios recommended by the State Board of Education. And 2, the plan must also include strategies to recruit and retain the counselors, psychologists, and social workers, as well as establishing annual targets for meeting the recommended ratios for these workers. The 2 districts must submit reports to the Nevada Department of Education concerning their plan to improve their ratios and the effectiveness of its efforts to recruit and retain behavioral and mental health professionals. The report must also describe what the district plans to do during the next school year to meet the targeted ratios. The NDE is then required to compile this information and submit it to the governor, the legislature, and the State Board of Education. The second major component of Senate Bill 151 may be found in Section 2 of the bill. The licensing board for our educators, the Commission on Professional Standards in Education, is required to establish continuing education requirements specific to school counselors, psychologists, and social workers. Currently, most of these professionals participate in continuing ed opportunities as their commitment to their profession, but don't receive any state level credit. This section of the bill will address that oversight. I'm hopeful that taking these steps with our largest school districts will focus attention on the critical roles these professionals provide for our schools. It also moves Nevada forward, being nationally recognized with these best practices. And I'm especially hopeful that this focus will help school districts recruit and retain more mental health professionals. And now I would like to invite Dr. Katie Dockweiler, who, among other things, Dr. Dockweiler serves on the State Board of Education, and she is a nationally certified school psychologist and a policy researcher committed to the improvement of this education system. So, Dr. Dockweiler, please go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Senator Dondero Loop. Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and members of the committee. My name is Dr. Katie Dockweiler, and I am speaking to you today as a school psychologist and the Director of Government and Professional Relations for the Nevada Association of School Psychologists. I would like to provide some historic context with regard to the provisions outlined in this bill. The work toward improving staffing ratios for school-based mental health providers began in 2018 with the statewide School Safety Task Force. As a member of that group, we were tasked with finding systemic, long-term solutions to improving student well-being and safety in Nevada. Presentations were made by national and local experts, statewide data were carefully reviewed, and high-impact, high-efficacy targets were chosen. Establishing staffing ratios for Nevada school-based mental health providers, as well as developing a strategic plan for successfully achieving those ratios, were determined to be two foundational targets to ultimately improve the mental and behavioral health services available to our students. These provisions were passed in 2019 under Senate Bill 89. Since 2019, a collaborative of stakeholder groups have been working closely to explore best practice ratios within each professional domain, along with a variety of potential avenues for attaining these ratios. This collaborative has included the state associations for school psychologists, school counselors, and school social workers, the Nevada Department of Education, and other related professional organizations. With the first foundational component now passed and recommended ratios established, it is time for the second foundational component, the strategic plans, to be developed and carried out by districts to further support growth toward achieving these ratios. The steps outlined by Senator Dondero are essential for continued progress toward improving student well-being and safety. Specific measurable targets for recruitment and retention will help districts determine if their efforts are having the desired impact, and will ultimately allow opportunity to shift efforts in a timely manner. If staffing goals are not set and progress not measured intentionally and at regular intervals, we will never know if we are on track to achieving our goals. Now more than ever, our students need access to school-based mental health professionals, and this bill will help achieve that. Thank you.
And with that, Chair Dennis, we'll take questions and then I'll have closing remarks. Thank you.
Okay, questions? Not seeing any hands. If you have a question, raise your hand. Yes, Senator Buck.
So essentially, are you creating another commission or board or council for the DOE?
My answer would be no. We're asking for reports. Is that what you're referring to, the reports? The report. I'm sorry, Senator Buck, if I wasn't sure if you were referring to the reports. The reports will be created by the school districts and then sent to the Nevada Department of Education.
Senator Dondero Loop, I believe she was referring, and I'm not sure, but in section 2, it refers to the commission shall adopt regulations. I think maybe she's asking what that commission is.
That's the Commission on Professional Standards in Education.
Which is a standing committee that we already have. Yeah.
It's already created.
And it probably says that somewhere in there.
Apologies, I misunderstood your question.
All right, other questions? I don't see anybody at this point, but we can come back. Let's move then to, we're going to hear from those that, and I'm assuming that that's the end of your presentation, right? So we can move on to the.
Yes, I'll have closing remarks after we're done with support and opposition and neutral, but yes, go ahead, please. Perfect.
All right, so now we'll go to testimony in support, opposition, and neutral, and we're going to start with support. So those of you that wish to give testimony in support, we will have BPS get that going.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support on SB 151, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 927, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Hello and thank you, Committee Chair Dennis and committee members. My name is Hava Ahmed, H-A-W-A-H-A-H-M-A-D, and I'm here representing the Clark County Education Association. The Clark County Education Association represents more than 18,000 licensed professionals in the Clark County School District. We are the largest independent teachers union in the country and in the state of Nevada. We engage in bipartisan advocacy for advancing public education in Nevada. CCEA supports the Senate Bill 151 and thanks Senator Dondero Luke for working with us on this bill. This bill ensures that every school district reflects upon progress made to get to the long-term goal for non-binding ratios for our social and behavioral support system and our K-12 education system. Our school psychologists, counselors, and social workers have already dealt with high professional to student ratios over the years. With anticipated rises in mental health issues due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it is incredibly important to have accountability measures in place to make sure that our long-term goals can be met and that we can be agile in our approach to creating pipelines for mental health professionals in education. It is clear that a reduction in caseloads for our mental health professionals will lead to increased student success in academics and will help to develop the social and emotional growth factor linked to academic success. Though the ultimate goal of this bill projects us 15 years into the future, the reporting mechanism in this bill will ensure that we keep our eye on the target and achieve our goals. CCEA thanks the committee and the sponsor for their effort and looks forward to supporting the development of mental health support in K-12.
Okay, thank you. I think we're ready for the next one.
Thank you, Chair. Caller with the last 3 digits of 577, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Chris Bailey, D-A-L-Y, Nevada State Education Association, the voice of Nevada educators for over 120 years. NSCA is in support of the goals of SB 151 to reduce the caseloads of licensed educators, such as school counselors, psychologists, and social workers, while also providing meaningful professional development. NSCA is offering an amendment to extend a 5% salary enhancement to school counselors, psychologists, and social workers who have successfully completed a national certification program to develop the highest standards of practice for students. Common sense tells us reasonable caseloads for other licensed education professionals are significant in helping students succeed. That is why NSCA has been supportive of efforts across legislative sessions to address the issue of unreasonable caseloads for specialized instructional support personnel. We applaud Senator Dondero Luke for continuing her efforts to address this issue through Senate Bill 151. Senate Bill 89 from the 2019 legislative session directed the State Board of Education to develop recommendations for the ratio of students to specialized instructional support personnel. Based on national best practices, the board recommended 1 school counselor, 1 school social worker per 250 pupils, and 1 school psychologist per 500 pupils. Current caseloads are far from these recommended numbers. As of 2020, Nevada's ratios were 1 to 463 for counselors, 1 to 1,843 for psychologists, and 1 to 1,174 for social workers. While this work rose out of school safety concerns, the COVID-19 pandemic and impact on schools and kids has further elevated the importance of counselors, psychologists, and social workers in school communities. Students returning to school buildings this year are finding systems to support their mental health and social and emotional needs totally overburdened. Nevada schools are in desperate need of more highly trained counselors, psychologists, and social workers with starting pay and benefits averaging between $62,000 and $77,000 per year. Recruitment and retention in these rigorous fields is very difficult. That is why NSC is proposing Nevada treat these occupations similarly to teachers who have become nationally board certified with a 5% salary enhancement. This will help with recruitment and retention while also incentivizing school counselors, psychologists, and social workers to achieve the high standard of practice in their profession. Look, we know that this would put a fiscal note on this bill and come with a price tag. I think with the good news today, with the passage of the American Recovery Plan, we've got over $1 billion headed to Nevada for public education. This would be a worthy use of some of those funds. We would hope the committee would consider this. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits of 687, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Marie Nisus, M-A-R-I-E-N-E-I-S-E-S-S, President of the Clark County Education Association, and I'm here today speaking on behalf of two social workers. Dear Chair Dennis and members of the committee, our names are Tanya Jones and Amanda Simmons. We are school social workers and members of the Clark County Education Association. We broadly support Senate Bill 151 and encourage you to pass it while ensuring that school social work continuing education requirements align with the continuing education requirements of the Board of Social Work. Senate Bill 151 is important because, one, a reduction in caseloads for social workers, safe school professionals would lead to increased academic success for our students, because it would enable us to focus on social and emotional growth, thus leading to academic success. Two, it is vital that each school district recruit and retain qualified school social workers and safe school professionals in order to decrease mental health issues by enabling us to increase mental health prevention and education, thus leading to increased student success. Three, it is important for transparency and accountability in order to meet the recommended ratio for school social workers to students. We ask you to pass Senate Bill 151 with the provision that the continuing education requirements for school social workers align with the Board of Social Work continuing education requirements to improve the mental health and academic success of Nevada's youth and their families. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits of 498, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Erica Valdriz, E-R-I-C-A-V-A-L-D-R-I-Z, with the Vegas Chamber. The Chamber is in support of SB 151. The Chamber supports having a high-quality, comprehensive school counseling program in our state. We believe this bill creates accountability for our state to ensure that student success is personalized for each district, which will support our students' accomplishments and physical and mental well-being. We believe in the importance of recruiting and retaining our essential workforce of school counselors, school psychologists, and school social workers in the state of Nevada. The Chamber cares about this program because it supports student achievement, which will increase Nevada's graduation rate. With the necessary supports in place, school counselors, school psychologists, and school social workers are uniquely equipped to promote academic success and help Nevada students become college ready or career ready. Thank you, Chair and members of the committee, for your time. We urge your support for this bill.
Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits of 918, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Davis, Vice Chair Dondero Loop, Senator Lang, and members of the Senate Education Committee. My name is Jeff Horn, Jeffhorn, and I am the Deputy Executive Director with the Clark County Association of School Administrators and Professional Technical Employees. Our organization represents approximately 1,300 Clark County School District administrators, with 98% of those eligible to join our association are current members. We would like to voice our support for Senate Bill 151. The challenges of educating our students during this pandemic have been well documented. Increasing numbers of depression, substance abuse, and tragically, the loss of life due to suicide have become all too common. Clark County School District has recently reported 22 student suicides just over the past year. The lack of resources and behavioral and mental health professionals to help address these needs is dramatically insufficient. Senate Bill 151 is a step in the right direction that will finally shine a light on the lack of resources currently available at our schools. As a former high school principal, I'm well aware of the value of behavioral and mental health workers on campus who can immediately identify and address struggling students. There's no better tool available to the building principal than the ability to connect a student in crisis to a social worker, counselor, or psychologist who can provide a pathway towards healing. The current ratio of site-based counselors and social workers and psychologists is nowhere close to the need of effectively addressing the fragile emotional state of a growing number of students. Adding more behavioral and mental health professionals to our schools will literally have the potential to save lives and allow our most vulnerable students to receive the support that they need in order to lead healthy and productive lives. Thank you, and I appreciate your consideration and time.
Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits of 598, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin. Caller with the last three digits of 598, you have 2 minutes and you may begin. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record.
Good afternoon. This is Nicole Rourke, Nicolerourke with the City of Henderson. Thank you, Chair Dennis and members of the committee. The City of Henderson is proud to support SB 151 today. Supporting the mental health and wellness of children in Nevada is of critical importance to the City of Henderson. This pandemic has shined an even brighter light on this issue, highlighting the negative impacts of stress, isolation, and disappointment in our children's lives. It is a critical time to ensure we are supporting efforts to recognize warning signs and direct students toward resources to help them in these challenging times. Since 2015, the City of Henderson has invested more than $6 million in our schools with revenues from marijuana sales and redevelopment set-aside funds. These investments have directed funding specifically for mental health support, including the Impact Program, Henderson Hope Squads, and sponsorship at the Nevada Association of School Counselors annual conference this year. Invo Healthcare's Impact Program is an integrated service delivery program in 4 Henderson schools supporting high-need students with dynamic professional teams to assess and treat significant behavioral issues stemming from a high number of adverse childhood experiences and to reduce the amount of time students are outside of the classroom due to disruptive behavior, which leads to improved academic achievement. School counselors, school psychologists, and school social workers each have critical roles to play in identifying and reducing self-destructive behaviors among children. Improving the ratio of pupils to these specialized personnel is essential to providing the care our students need. The City of Henderson supports efforts to recruit and retain people to fill these essential roles, as well as provisions to ensuring their continuing education. We support the work of the Clark County School District to reopen schools, and as we look forward to students returning to the classroom, there's a lot to be hopeful for. We appreciate your time and Senator Dondero for sponsoring this bill and allowing us to lend our support to SB 151.
Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits of 989, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Emily Espinosa. That's Emilyespianosa. on behalf of the Nevada Association of School Administrators. NASA is the professional organization that represents school administrators throughout the state of Nevada, and as stated in our mission statement, our first primary function is to promote legislation that improves education within the state, and we believe that SB 151 does exactly that. We appreciate the sponsors for bringing forward this important legislation and urge your support and passage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits of 569, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Hello, this is Vinny Tarquinio, VINNYTARQUINIO of the Clark County Education Association, and I'm reading on behalf of Brandy Cutie. Dear Chair Dennis and members of the committee, my name is Brandy Cutie, and I've been a school counselor in the Clark County School District for the past 16 years. I've been a counselor at a high school level, and I am currently a counselor serving at the elementary school level. During my time as a counselor, my caseload has been as high as 900 to 1. I strongly support SB 151 as it will ensure that the leaders and administrators of our school district will have the transparency and accountability to take the necessary steps that will make my caseload align with the national standard of 250 to 1. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is highly regarded in the field of education. Maslow classifies the needs of humans require as follows: physiological, safety, belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. When we have students that do not have their basic needs met, they cannot learn. This affects student outcomes, whether it's reaching their reading goal or achieving passing grades. This is why my job as a school counselor is so important. It's too difficult to address the whole child when my current caseload is 800 to 1. I only end up barely scratching the surface of providing them with the quality support that best accommodates all their individual needs. And many students fall through the cracks, which breaks my heart. If elementary students do not get their needs met in an adequate manner, this affects them throughout their academic career. Many times, the school administration is only focused on academic support and overlook the need of social and emotional support. Some elementary schools do not even have a full-time counselor on their campus. Therefore, mandatory reporting and detailed accounting is so important to ensure that schools are taking the necessary steps towards improving counselor-to-student ratios and utilizing our support in a proper manner. Legislators, I urge you to pass SB 151. Help school counselors provide the best quality of support to our students because they deserve it. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits of 023, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
My name is Brenda Pearson, BRENDA PEARSON, and I'm with the Clark County Education Association. I'm reading public comment into the record. Dear Chair Dennis and members of the committee, my name is Paige Myers. I'm a national certified school psychologist and an executive board member of the Clark County Education Association. I'm writing to show my support of Senate Bill 151. I'm encouraged to see a continued effort to address the clear need for social, emotional, behavioral, and mental health support for Nevada students. When the NDE passed a long-term goal to aim for non-binding ratios for many valuable school employees, including school psychologists, counselors, and social workers, it was a step in the right direction. This bill takes the necessary next steps to ensure school districts start a path towards these ratios in a systematic way, utilizing data to drive the efforts. This past year has shown us both how unpredictable the future is and puts a spotlight on the mental health needs of our students. Although I must point out, the mental health needs of the youth in Nevada's schools are not new. Passionate school-based mental health professionals have been working hard for decades to do all we can to support students in need. However, our efforts, no matter how dedicated, fall short due to this outrageous caseload sizes. The list of ways school psychologists, counselors, and social workers improve student achievement and well-being is vast. While our jobs are not as well known as teachers or even understood by many, we are vital to the educational success and lives of many of our students. We not only have the ability to assist students on an individual basis, but also are trained to drive system-level supports that have a far-reaching impact on academic achievement, social-emotional learning, attendance, and school climate. This bill helps ensure districts have a continued focus on addressing this problem no matter what unknown hurdles the next year next few years bring. The need for more appropriate ratios is longstanding and dire, but it is not something we can be fixed quickly. It will take a deliberate and continuous effort which this bill puts into place. So I humbly ask you to please pass Senate Bill 151. Thank you.
If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in support on SB 151, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 338, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Joanna Miller, JoannaMiller of the Clark County Education Association. I am speaking on behalf of a school counselor. Dear Chair Dennis and members of the committee, my name is Belinda Kimes, and I am a school counselor who's in favor of SB 151. School counselors are responsible for addressing the academic, career, and personal/social needs of children. In high school, we are expected to enroll students in courses matching their goals and aptitudes. We are expected to help students explore careers using interest and skills assessments, and we are expected to provide emotional support, especially during a crisis. That is only the gist of it. I can talk about 504 plans, suicide protocols, schedule changes, CPS referrals, transcripts, evals, ACT proctoring, parent-teacher conferences, academic plans, and so forth, but that would take all day. School counselors are accountable to our students in all these areas of needs and more. With this comes the obligation to work with all the efficiency, accessibility, and dependability our students require. This is difficult to do when we have caseloads that substantially surpass recommended levels. According to the American Schools Counselor Association, the optimal student-to-counselor ratio is 250 to 1. My current student caseload is 381. Nevada's average ratio based on 2019 data is 544 to 1. These numbers make it nearly impossible to develop a genuine rapport with every student where they feel comfortable sharing their concerns while also fitting in department meetings, recommendation letters, class leveling, pre-registration, parent phone calls, professional development, etc. Large caseloads hinder our availability to get to know students. Large caseloads increase the likelihood of making errors that could affect a student's diploma type or even graduation eligibility. Large caseloads surely compromise the level of service needed to help our children. We put our best effort forward regardless, but our best can be better if our caseloads are at optimal levels. You have the power and authority to make that happen by passing SB 151. Thank you.
Chair, there are no more callers in support of SB 151 at this time.
Okay, thank you. So let's then move to testimony in opposition.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition of SB 151, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in opposition on SB 151, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Okay, let us move then to neutral. Anyone wishing to testify who's in neutral on the bill, please, if we could please add those callers.
To testify in neutral on SB 151, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in neutral on SB 151, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 411, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Lindsay Anderson, LINDSAYANDERSON, on behalf of the Washoe County School District. The Washoe County School District is neutral on SB 151. Our district shares a strong commitment to supporting the whole child, including the mental and emotional needs of our students. Our school counselors, psychologists, and social workers are a critical part of the team and no doubt carry caseloads that are too large. As we know, this is the case in many areas of public education in Nevada with our largest class sizes in the country. It's difficult to expect school districts to reach or move towards national best practice ratios while being funded at the lowest levels in the country. With additional funds, hiring additional staff, including school-based mental health professionals, would be a priority. We are confident in our ability to recruit and retain these professionals in a systemic way, but without additional funds, we will not be able to make progress towards our shared goals. We appreciate speaking to Senator Dondero-Loop about this bill before the hearing and understand her goals and share her end outcomes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 030, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Chair Dennis, members of the committee, Brad Keating, for the record with the Clark County School District, BRAD, Keating, Keating. We want to go ahead and thank Senator Dondero-Loop for bringing this bill forward. Had a wonderful conversation with her yesterday about this bill. Like many of the callers that have called in today, we certainly support the intention of Senate Bill 151. Dr. Jara, our superintendent in Clark County, has continually stated the importance of improving the mental health for our students is a top priority, and we're working to provide those necessary services as we move forward. As we are in neutral, much like Ms. Anderson stated, we look forward to complying with the requests in this bill, but want to make sure that everyone understands that there is a cost and difficult decisions have to be made on teachers and class sizes and social workers and school counselors, and there's only so much money to go around. So as we move forward, we completely support the intention of this bill. We want to work with Senator Dondero-Loop and the Department of Education to continue increasing recruiting and retaining all of these 3 high-need areas because it is incredibly important for our students. So thank you for bringing this bill forward.
Chair, there are no more callers in neutral at this time.
Okay. So with that, we'll go ahead and close the testimony. Unless, so if with that, I think we'll bring Senator Dondero-Loop back up.
Let
me ask first. Let me ask first. Yeah, is there any questions before we? Let me just put the view on so I can see you guys. Okay, so who's got questions? Senator Lang, Senator Buck. Okay, let's start with Senator Lang.
Okay. I love this bill. Obviously, I signed on to it, so I 100% support it. I'm really interested in the proposed amendment from NSCA, and I'm wondering if we can get a cost of what the 5% salary enhancement would be. I think if we give it to teachers who have the national certification, giving it to counselors, psychologists, and social workers would be appropriate, but I'd just like to know the cost. So I'm wondering if we can get that for our next time we discuss this.
We'll be addressing that in my closing comments, not the actual cost, but I'll be addressing that. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Senator Buck.
Thank you so much, Chair Dennis. I too am glad that Vice Chair Dondero-Loop and Senator Lang brought this to the forefront. I think it's important that we definitely look into this. I know that there were some, or there is an extra stipend that school counselors get. If somebody could look into that. And then also, if I may, Chair Dennis, the regulations that include in like Section 2, I was just wondering if in Section 2, are there any details onto specifics regarding what the continuing education requirements might look like? Is there a timeline for when they would have to be adopted or such regulations?
Dr. Dockweiler, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Would you mind addressing what some of the continuing education classes that you take that you don't get stipends for? Would you give us some examples, please?
Sure, thank you. Katie Dockweiler for the record. So there's certain requirements already set up by the state that we need to maintain in order to keep our license. There are also national recommendations that we need, or requirements that we need to maintain in order to keep our national certification. And ideally, it would be great if those activities would then be counted towards the professional development activities that the COPS would require us to do. So there's an alignment between national best practice and what's required in the state.
Senator Buck, also I would, Senator Dennis, I just would mention, as far as the regulation making part of that, because the bill says that it would be the commission on standards, the professional standards, they would have to go through the process that everybody has to go through when they create regulations. So they'll have to have hearings, take public comment, obviously take into consideration anything that's required for the licensure part. So everyone will have an opportunity to actually weigh in on what kind of continuing ed also would be part of that process. Then the regulations would come to the legislative commission after they do their part, then it gets approved by the legislative commission. So anyway, so there's a whole process that we go through during the interim to implement the regulations when we put something like that in a bill. All right.
Thank you so much, Chair Dennis. Yeah, I was just, wondering if there was something in mind besides the amount of, credits a counselor, psychologist, or school social worker must complete. So anyway, thank you so much.
Yep. And also I will add that anything that we mention here is part of the legislative record, so they'll look at that when they're also working on this. So, all right. Anybody else have any questions? Not seeing any of their hands raised. Okay, Senator Dondero.
Thank you very much. I just have a few closing remarks, if you don't mind, Chair. In closing, it's
Please.
clear that our K-12 students are facing many social, emotional, and situational pressures that affect their school performance. And unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic has amplified those pressures, and school safety concerns will not magically disappear when those students return to our classrooms. We have available and should have available mental health professionals in our schools who can work individually and collectively to create school environments that encourage growth and enable children to feel that school is a safe place for them. And the essential support services provided by each of these professional groups all support and contribute to this environment, and we need to do better to ensure that we help meet the needs of our students. I appreciate the proposed amendments that have come forward, and they should be considered as funds are available. As mentioned in my bill, in Senate Bill 319 of the 2019 session, this was a big discussion. So I certainly do support our counselors and psychologists and social workers. This bill provides the next step to fostering that environment, both for the children and the professionals that our schools so desperately need. So thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, committee, for considering Senate Bill 151. And I urge your support of this bill, and I'm happy to have any conversations that someone needs to be to understand this any further. So thank you very much today.
Thank you very much, and thank you to everyone that participated. We will go ahead and close the hearing on SB 151 and open the hearing on SB 193, which revises provisions relating to the education of veterans and their spouses and dependents. And I believe Senator Hardy is going to present that.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair Dennis. During the interim, the Legislative Committee on Senior Citizens, Veterans, and Adults with Special Needs reviewed the current programs and services offered for veterans and their families at the institutions of the Nevada system of higher education. And in addition, the committee received written recommendations to maximize the educational benefits for veterans and eligible family members, which is the genesis of Senate Bill 193. There are 3 veterans with me, fellow veterans, I'll say, with me today to testify. 2 of those, Bruno Moya was a former Marine, and Ross Bryant, former U.S. Army veteran, and he has many initials after his name: Executive Director of International Studies and Scholars, Military and Veteran Service Center at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And so they will be addressing us as well. The third other veteran would be Byron Brooks, who is not just a veteran, but is currently serving as a regent for the NSHE. And we're appreciative of having all 3 of them. To summarize the bill, what we did in the interim is the Board of Regents, we suggested they continue to track and monitor and analyze the participation of students who are veterans in NSHE and submit a report to the legislature. So the reason they need to continue, or we're proposing they continue, is because those provisions to keep track of them expire July 1st, 2020. It also creates an enrollment preference for applicants of a nursing or teaching program at a community college, state college, or university or NSHE who are veterans of the U.S. Armed Forces and honorably discharged. And so the intent is to give those individuals preferences so that we can involve them in their ongoing success in entering not just in the world of private world, but helping to teach us and to take care of us. Thirdly, it removes the 5-year limitation on assessing tuition charges against the honorably discharge. Just literally recently, January 5th, 2021, there was a bill passed and signed into law with Senator Johnny Isaacson and Representative David E. Rowe, both veterans, and this bill removes the federal 3-year limitation for in-state tuition eligibility to GI Bill students. Therefore, SB 193 would mimic the new federal law. And fourthly, this bill proposes to prohibit a tuition change from being assessed against veterans and their spouses and dependents who are using benefits under the post-9/11 education assistance or survivors and dependents educational assistance. So this came after 9/11, and a person who must have become eligible for such benefits on or after January 1st, 2013. And this is also similar to federal law enacted in 2017, which established the forever GI Bill and removed the use it or lose it rule. So Senator Chair Dennis, I'm sure you will agree with me that our veterans and their families deserve our continued support and obviously their sacrifices. Even though some of the provisions of SB 193 are now in federal law, I think we need to give a very strong message that we concur in that and in our state. And I would love to have Mr. Bryant and Mr. Bruno and have our Regent Brooks also address us, if that would be your pleasure.
Please. Thank you, Senator Hardy. This is Bruno Moya for the record. Thank you, Chairman Dennis, for allowing us to testify and to explain this bill. And as Senator Hardy mentioned, this bill will enhance student veteran education in our state. But more importantly, I think what it'll also accomplish is the continuation of service that veterans want to produce to the state. Many student veterans that attend a college or university go on to attend nursing school, medical school, STEM fields that are highly critical to the needs of our state and continuation of serving our citizens and our community members here in the state. To give you a little bit of background on what the state of Nevada has accomplished, specifically at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Nationwide, there's roughly 750 student veterans that are attending a school. There are over 1,500 student veteran chapters. Those are chapters within the school or within the university or college that are identified as school chapters or clubs that attempt to gather student veterans. And two of those, one of those chapters here at UNLV has been awarded 2 times the Student Veteran of the Year award because of a lot of the work that they're doing in our community. Alex Owen and Andrew Ho for this year. Andrew Ho was awarded the Student Veterans of America. That's, they're going after or fighting against 750,000 other student veterans across the nation. The report in this bill has a couple of different sections, as Senator Hardy mentioned. The first section is a report that is given annually to the Nevada Department of Veteran Services, which then publishes the Interagency Council of Veterans Affairs, and that is set to expire this last year, or was set to expire this last year. So that would just ensure that it would continue to do so. And this report is published, so not only the Legislative Council can review it, but also the community, the state of Nevada, its residents can understand the benefits that veterans, if they do it, want to attend a campus here in the state, what is offered to them. This bill will also enhance the admissions for nurses and people that want to continue education or be educators, I should say. And I will let Mr. Ross Bryant talk a little bit more about what that will do. I'll just say that those two things are critical needs, critical shortages in our state. My wife being a nurse, she tells me about some of the shortages within our state with the medical fields, especially during this time of COVID, and how they are worked, and the need for having further assistance in our hospitals and in clinics to have support. So you'll have veterans that are getting out of the service to continue to serve our state in just a different manner. So with that, I will pass it over to Ross Bryant to explain a little bit more of the bill. Thank you very much again, Mr. Chairman and Senator Hardy.
Thank you, Bruno. My name is Ross Bryant. Chairman Dennis and Senator Hardy, I'm honored to be invited to participate today. So I'm retired Army after 25 years, and I've been working in the veteran community for over 10, helping veterans return to go to NC schools. And so this bill really sort of reinforces what our state has done for many years, over 2 governors, in trying to be a welcoming state for 1.2 million veterans getting out of the service and going to school is to do. When you talk about the nursing program, it has been my experience that many combat medics and combat corpsmen who have worked in the medical field in the military during their service come out and want to become nurses. And when they do that transition to education, there's a little bit of a conflict in the sense that in the nursing arena, if you have a high GPA and all those kinds of things, there's limited seats at UNLV and more seats at Nevada State College. What happens is some of the veterans with the best experience in that real life experience get frustrated and think, well, I can't get a seat here. I'll go to another state that has some sort of veteran admissions preference for veterans coming back with experience to actually hopefully serve as nurses in their states. So I think this could help. I'm not the expert on how all that would work, but there is veterans who would like to be nurses and then go to other schools or other states because of some of the challenges. Same thing with teachers. Years ago, the federal government had a Troops to Teachers program with bonus money for veterans to go into teaching. It was defunded in 2015. I am not sure why, but that program no longer exists. So any kind of opportunity for veterans to get into the teaching realm at any of our NC schools would also benefit our state with the shortage of teachers. In Section 5, as Senator Hardy alluded to, the federal law got passed after many years of discussion to remove the time limit for veteran families and for veterans. And I'd like to talk about the veteran families. I'm a retired Army guy of 25 years. I was combat arms my whole career from private to major. These families that have had multiple deployments over a 20-year period, they did a thing to retain service members. Around 2009, they allowed the serving sponsor, if they extended and stayed in for 4 years, they could give their post 9/11 benefit to their spouse and their children. This last semester, we had more family members graduate using VA benefit at UNLV. And so there's a huge population of family members that the 3-year limit resulted in some of them going to other states instead of coming to Nevada. This federal law and this law here will help all of those folks come to Nevada, be welcome here, use their benefit here, and hopefully contribute to our economy and help out, especially the veterans also. So that's basically my take on everything, and I'm really appreciative of this bill, and I appreciate everybody's time and effort. I'd like to hand it over then to Regent Byron Brooks, please.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. My name is Byron Brooks, and while I am a University Board of Regent, I would like to make the disclaimer that I'm here today before you as a veteran and as a veteran advocate. I am not here speaking on behalf of the other Board of Regent members. I want to certainly thank Senator Hardy for bringing this bill forward. Whenever we have the possibility to make education opportunities, particularly higher education opportunities, open and available to veterans, then I think we're doing some outstanding work. As a state, if we continue the path that we seem to be moving on in opening up the doors for veterans, particularly those that might be coming from another state by way of Section 5 in terms of cementing federal legislation in our state so that those veterans are receiving in-state tuition. I believe you'll see an influx of veterans who attend our higher education campuses, which is certainly a win for the state of Nevada. In terms of some of the other sections in there, particularly with the nursing school and system of education for teaching so that veterans can get into those fields, I think another consideration in that may be vetting the veteran transcripts, just to see if some of the skill sets, certifications, and work that service members have done might apply to some of the curriculum of each of those two areas of study. It goes without saying that the families of military service people are absolutely some of the unsung heroes that we have in our community, and to be able to open up education for them as well, I think is extremely commendable and something that I'd certainly like to see inside our community and our state. So again, I want to thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members for your time, and I will happily turn this back over to Senator Hardy.
Senator Hardy, does that finish your testimony?
Yeah, that finishes my testimony, but I would be happy to answer questions and recognize that I don't know if somebody from Nishi is around, but they have suggested an amendment that they probably would like to offer that would be considered friendly.
Yeah, and I think that's going to come during the support section, my understanding. Okay, questions? What questions? Okay, I saw Senator Donate, Senator Buck, and Senator Lang. Senator Donate, please go first.
Thank you, Chair Dennis, and thank you to the presenters, Mr. Moya, Mr. Bryant, and Regent Brooks for your presentation. First of all, I'm very proud to say that I was really good friends with a lot of Rebel vets back when I attended UNLV a few years ago, and I got really close to them. So I know a lot of the issues that they face in their education. I have two really quick questions. What was the decision? My first question is, what was the decision behind only focusing on preference to nursing schools? I know from some of the students that I met at UNLV, a lot of them wanted to go into physical therapy and even medical school. So was there a reason why we're only allowing for nursing programs, or how has that conversation been with to broader healthcare careers?
I may, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I don't think that there would be a limit to the number of ways that we can help veterans. I think the comments made already about the veteran who has been a medic or a corpsman, they come back and they want to go, they want to be a PA, they want to be a doctor, they want to be a nurse. So bottom line is, what is it that we can do that would not only encourage them to be such, but to actually go in that field when they're in the military. And so it was one of the obvious things that Bruno and Ross suggested when we were in our interim committee. And so we went in that direction. If we can give a leg up for a veteran who has served his, her country, then we need to be able to be appreciative of that. And I don't think there was a decision to say we don't want veterans to do something else, as much as we have a crying need for nursing and we have a crying need for teachers. And so let's look at the pool of people that have been prepared in their life histories and their life talents to put them in a position where they can not only self-actualize, but to help us and take care of me as I get older and older and my grandkids try to learn something. So those were the two areas of focus that we did. And so that's kind of where it went with the interim committee.
All right. That's Senator Buck.
Thank you, Chair Dennis. Thank you, Senator Hardy, and everyone else who testified. Just really quick, I know that nursing programs a lot of time have limitations. There's only so many students that are accepted into these programs. And so how do you think that will play out if priority goes to the veterans?
Well, I appreciate that question because I think it's one of those supplies and demands, and we have a lot of demand. And I'm hopeful that this will put pressure on nursing programs to build programs. I mean, I'm affiliated with a university that has nursing programs. And the reason they had nursing programs is because of the demand. I remember I work at Truro University, and in 2004, when I had nothing to do with Truro University, but went to the groundbreaking, I went and at that point, we had a vast shortage of nurse educators who had to have a master's in order to be able to teach. So a physician was not allowed to teach a nurse because of, nurses obviously are better than doctors, and, I could go on, but I'm smiling now. But we didn't have nurse educators. And so we had to grow nurse educators. And I told my people that were having the groundbreaking, I said, I want a nursing school. And they said, we're not going to. I said, no, I was an assemblyman. So, I thought I was, hot stuff. And I said, well, come on, I want a nursing school. And they said, no, we're not going to do it. Well, guess what? They did it. And so if we have demand, and we do because we're getting less young, we're getting more needs. We have, just look at the pandemic, at what happened with us. So there will be many more needed than perhaps we have places. And that will allow us to put pressure on And if we have veterans who are demanding and we say to them, you don't have a place, or we have people who aren't veterans and they say, I want to be a nurse, they're going to go somewhere else. And we want to keep them here. And so this is an excellent point that you make. We want more nursing schools. We want more nursing programs. We want more nurse practitioners. We want them all. And so hopefully this will be one of the ways that we can put pressure on NISHE, for instance, and private institutions to have more nursing schools and more nursing opportunities. Same thing that we're trying to do with teaching. So I hope that when the veterans come out in droves that want to be a nurse or a teacher, that we listen to them and we say, okay, where are the jobs going that we want? And I think we have this debate every session that I've been in. So where are the jobs? And you know, and I know the jobs are in medicine now. So let's do it. Let's pretend that we're focused on that. And I think that's, so it doesn't bother me that we're trying to focus on veterans. We can do it in different ways, and the regulatory process will probably have some insight into this. For some people who are in a position where they're in a minority, we give them a leg up on getting a business in a public building. We talk about the blind who have an advantage to get a business going into a public building. We have the airport does the same kind of thing. So we need to foster the places that allow veterans to be a nurse, be a teacher, although this is all about nursing. But bottom line is that's what we need to focus on. And I think if we lose focus, then we won't do what we need to do and put ourselves into position. So I guess this is a long answer to, I'm not worried about having too many vets. I'm worried about not having enough program spaces to do it. And therefore, let's build the programs. You know, the cornfield that turns into a baseball field, we've already got the baseball field, and we need to have them come. We need to recruit them. And I'm off my soapbox. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, Senator Lang.
Thank you, Chair Dennis. So I'm familiar with this a lot. I think this is a great program. I think anytime we can honor our veterans, we should. But could you please, Senator, explain to me the funding? Does the school absorb the funding? Does there funding that comes from the federal government, or how does that work?
So I'm not, thank you for the question, Senator. I'm not going to pretend to know how this will work with NISHE, and I hope that when they have their amendment, that they propose their amendment, they will say, you know, how they anticipate being able to bring these people in as much as right now they're capped. They're going to have to figure out that if they're capped and they're doing something that brings on more subsidies, how are we going to subsidize that? And I don't know if you can count as high as the federal government can count, but I hope that $4.5 billion goes somewhat towards education and medical needs, and not just the infrastructure, but the medical needs that we have here in the state.
Great. And then the second question I have, please. So I was going to ask you about teachers, so I was glad that you brought that up. And you said it was defunded in 2015. So was that a federally funded program?
I will have to defer to somebody who knows that.
Senator Lang, I can add. So yes, it was a federal funded program that was around for about 15 years called Troops to Teachers. And so if I was getting out of the military and I wanted to be an educator, they would give me a bonus along with my GI Bill to get my ARL teaching certificate and my education. And then if I went to a disadvantaged school based upon zip codes and challenges, I then got a bonus to actually go to those school districts. That got defunded bipartisanly by the federal government in 2015. I guess there had been some issues about the funding and those things, and it's never been brought back. There's a lady named George Ann Rice from Southern Nevada. Yep, George Ann Rice is working still diligently with a new version of the bill with the new administration to try to revamp that in some flavor. But then at our level, this bill might be able to help those veterans who are going to go into teaching and education. And we still have many of them that are coming here to do that.
Thank you. So one of the things then, Senator Hardy, is I'm really interested in adding teachers to this, or the teaching profession. And I know like the school district already offers like a fast track for veterans, I think they do, to get their certification. But I'd be interested because I think that is needed as well. And I'm excited about the medical part because I think with the new medical school and everything that we're doing in all of Nevada to help that, I think this could be really helpful in those two areas. And I don't know if it's something you would consider adding in or you want to look at it, but just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the privilege of answering that question. You look at Section 4 of the proposed bill, and it does require the Board of Regents shall require, and we do have a board member here, so he can carry it back if he would like, shall require each program developed by the system for the education of teachers to give preference to in admission to veterans of the armed forces. So I may talk, about health a lot, but we are interested in teachers, and to your point, that discussion needs to happen as well as the nurses. So we do have in the bill the Board of Regents being asked to do things, and I think they have been more than willing to help. And as we build out, we're going to recognize that we have to have teachers and appreciate them. I don't know if that answers your question, but obviously, if we have a bill that's open and you have a good idea, it's a discussion.
It does. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Senator Dondero-Lupe.
Thank you very much. And Senator Woodhouse and I actually have been working very closely with Dr. Rice on this bill. And we did find that there were some states that have worked also on this and have this in play. So with that, I would say that, the bill is a great idea. It's a great thing for our veterans to be able to transition into the teaching field or the medical field if they so desire. And please don't hesitate to reach out if you need additional information.
All right. Other questions? Senator Donate and then Senator Buck.
Thank you, Chair Dennis. I just have a really quick question in regards to some of the requirements that are going to be included in the report. Would it be fair to say that I know in one of the sections it says any information necessary to determine the impact of policy changes that react to veteran students, and talks a lot about retention and making sure that veteran students graduate. Would it be fair to say that this report would also encompass addressing the mental, social, and behavioral health needs for veteran students and how NC institutions are reacting to those gaps? Is that something that would be included in that report?
Thank you, Senator Donate. It's not specifically asked for. Realistically, the regions can get whatever report they want. And so there's nothing to preclude them from saying to the committee, for instance, that we have in the interim that is a senior citizens, veterans, adults with special needs committee, or one of the other interim committees to come and say that this is what we've noticed. I think we have been talking about mental health and Veterans Hospital, and those discussions are very early in this session. And so I look for more input than just this bill to open up the opportunities for veterans health, veterans mental health, homelessness, and I'm sure we're going to have many more discussions about that.
Sir, I'd like to add on that this is a continuation.
Could you identify yourself first?
I'm sorry, my name is Ross Bryant, retired Army veteran. So this is a continuation of a report that has continued since AB 76. And in those reports, we talk about our programming at the different schools and how we address some of those issues at each school to try to ensure retention and mental health and services and those kinds of things. So I'm sure the NCHE and the Board of Regents would want that to continue.
Thank you. And I think, was it Senator Buck? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair Dennis. I sure do like Senator Lang's comment on teachers. We need 1,000 in the state every year in addition to what we have. So I do appreciate that for sure. And thank you to Vice Chair Dondero, Loop, Senator Harvey, Senator Woodhouse for this grand idea. I guess one of the things that's from the university's perspective, so in nursing in particular, there's certain criteria, and so it could potentially weaken the standards for admission, which impacts, of course, accreditation. So I guess my question is, the intent of a veteran would get the preference over a more qualified nursing applicant who is not a veteran, or I just think we need to be a little careful with how that plays out.
Okay. That was a comment, right? Not a question.
Well, I just wondered, is that going to, are the veterans going to go way to the top, or is that going to all be discussed in this commission?
It's the way I see this happening, and I don't have the scepter to decide what to do and how to do it, but I think that will be through the power of regulation and up with the NISHE's admissions. For any program that you have to have the ability, and you have to have shown the capability, and you have to have those two things in order to be able to be a person of professional standard in something such as a nurse or a teacher. There will, if you have two candidates and they're both equal and they're both wonderful people, then which one do you take? And I think that's where this comes in, is not so much you take somebody who's not capable and hope they become capable as much as you take two capable people. And if they're in the same ballpark, you say, okay, I've got somebody who's got real life experience in the field of the military, and you say that counts for something. I think real life experiences are worth something, whether that's in business or military. The more experiences we have, I think the better apt we are to adapt to the challenges that we will face and the wisdom that comes with those. So I look forward to that consternation of who we accept, because I would love to have the highest quality people accepted, and I would like to have among those highest quality people veterans. And if we can lift all of our veterans, and we get all of our people coming through school and through college coming up, and we perish the thought, have to have a bigger nursing program, a bigger opportunity at the state college for nursing, a bigger opportunity at private institutions. And many times private institutions wake up, as did Touro University, for instance, and say, we'll make a program. And poof, then we've got something that will work. But I think if we wring our hands and wish that we didn't have so much success, we probably won't have so much success. But I look forward to having the problem of having too many people who are too qualified. Thank you.
Byron Brooks, for the record, Chair, if it's okay, and Vice Chair, committee members, I just wanted to just comment on a couple of things. One was reiterating what Senator Hardy said. I believe the intention of this is not to at all lower the standards of enrollment for any program. And I don't believe that any veteran, frankly, would be supportive of a measure that lowered the either qualifications or what the what the level of expectation would be for somebody to be involved with one of the programs. Some of these schools have some extremely high standards, and that's very favorable. And so I promise you that that veterans, service members certainly recognize that there are, even in the military, there are some courses and schools that they may attend that are of the highest caliber, and some make it and some don't, and that's just the nature of some of the work that's done inside the military. I certainly don't see enrollment qualifications being lowered to allow somebody in who does not meet the standard but is a veteran. And the other comment that I wanted to make is that currently NCHE does a really good job of veteran reporting, and I've looked at the 2019 to 2020 Veterans Enrollment Report, which is public record and something that you can certainly punch up through Google. And it does a great job of outlining how many veterans we have in the NCHE system, what the course of studies are the most popular. And so just if any of the senators wanted some type of reference for enrollment and reporting, then that's something that they could certainly access. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, other questions? Senator Hammond.
Thank you, Chair. I have one question, and I think part of it was answered when Senator Lang asked her question about where the funding was coming from. I guess that question answered in a part why this next part. I'm going to section 5, where they actually struck out some language because it talks about who's eligible. And in this case, it was only for veterans who had been discharged, honorably discharged within the last 5 years, immediately preceding the date of, I think, matriculation. Now you're getting rid of that and you're opening it up to folks who matriculated even longer ago. Is there any idea on how this might impact the program? I know this is about a study and it's about reporting, and then we'll get more information, but was there any consideration, maybe some thought towards now how many more people are we going to be including in this program? Because it's going to be paid out, maybe I just shouldn't even worry about it because it's going to be paid from a different source, but I'm very curious as to why they struck that language out. Is there an extreme need? Or a lot of people are trying to go back to school after 5 years. They just didn't know what they wanted to do. Just kind of get a better sense of why that decision was made.
I may, Mr. Chair, the feds passed the bill January 5th, 2021. That made this a constant thing, so that it would. So all we're doing is admitting that the feds made this a ongoing thing. So there's not a timeout that you run out, and so it allows us to be cognizant and recognize the people who used to have timed out, but now they haven't. And so we're allowing them to know that we appreciate them as well as the federal government does. And to your what the sub rosa comment would be is, can we afford that as a state? And that is why we meet here, and that's why we are grateful for things that are helping us overcome the fall in the economy with the pandemic. And we do realize that at some point we'll have to pay for these things, whether that comes from the federal government or comes from the state. one of the things I would project the need for is we're going to have more and more need for medical professions. And I think this puts us in a position to admit that we're going to recruit people to those positions and welcome veterans. And if we welcome veterans from other states even, I would be thrilled. And I think our whole attitude needs to be one of recruitment, not just from our youth, but from other states, so that we can take care of us. We don't have enough youth right now that can come up and fill all the places. I think we need to put a message out there that Nevada is welcoming the veterans. And if they come, that would be wonderful, and we'll try to incorporate them in our training programs and make our training programs more robust. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Other questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands. Okay, so we're going to move on then to testimony. And we will first start with testimony in support. And we are on Bill SB 193. So those of you that wish to give support, we're going to ask BPS to start adding callers.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support on SB 193, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in support on SB 193, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 014, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Russell Rowe, RUSSELL-ROWE, representing the Nevada System of Higher Education. Thank you, Chair Dennis and members of the committee, speaking today in support of SB 193 and to offer a friendly amendment. The intent of the amendment is to clarify the language in paragraph L2 of subsection 2 of section 5 in order to better align the bill with federal law. Specifically, federal law permits the spouses and dependents of veterans to be eligible for the tuition waiver, provided that they are using the post 9/11 Educational Assistance Program pursuant to USC sections 3301 through 3327. NSHE's amendment would clarify line 42 of page 4 of the bill to ensure that the spouses and dependents of veterans would likewise be using the same federal program to be eligible for the state's tuition waiver as required by federal law. We thank Senator Hardy, Senator Spearman, and the interim committee for bringing this legislation. Expanding access to higher education is a critical piece of NSHE's mission, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
So Mr. Rowe, there was a question earlier about the cost and how this gets funded. Can you give us an insight into that?
My understanding is when there are programs such as these at the federal level, these funds flow through your state higher education system. Beyond that, I don't have the details of how that occurs, but when there are funds available for these kind of waivers, it certainly makes it much easier to implement from a system and institutional perspective. We could definitely provide additional information for you if need be.
That would be good, because we have some new members, and I think it would be good information to have for folks on how we fund these kind of programs. So if you have that, that'd be great.
Okay. Well, all right. We'll make sure that the Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs was hoping to attend today. I was just unable to, but we'll make sure we follow up and get you and the committee that information.
Thank you very much. Okay. Anybody have questions on what they're proposing there as far as the amendment? Okay. right, so let's go on to the next caller.
Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Okay, let's move then to those wishing to give testimony in opposition.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition on SB 193, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in opposition on SB 193, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Okay, thank you. Let's move then to testimony in neutral. Anyone wishing to give testimony in neutral?
To testify in neutral on SB 193, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in neutral on SB 193, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right, just because I don't know for sure, and I know since we're doing this online and sometimes there's a delay and there's technical issues, can we just make one more call for either any support, neutral, or just got out? Because I want to make sure somebody didn't try to connect and got disconnected and didn't get in at the right time. So, can we do one more call?
Yes, Chair. To testify in support on SB 193, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, if you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in support on SB 193, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in support at this time.
Okay, do we have anybody in the queue at all? I mean, can you tell if anybody's in there already?
Yes, Chair, there are 3 numbers in the queue, so I could go ahead and go on to opposition to see if they may be calling for opposition.
Yeah, let's go and just do the other 2, just since we have callers there in case they're calling. Although they could be waiting for public comment, right? So I guess
Okay. To testify in opposition on SB 193, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in opposition on SB 193, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Okay, let's do neutral one more time.
To testify in neutral on SB 193, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in neutral on SB 193, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Great, thank you very much. All right, any further questions that we might have? Well, we have those that presented with us. Hold on, let me switch so I can see. Any other questions? Don't see any. Great. Senator Hardy, do you want to make any final comments?
One of the things that I get when I go to the Veterans Hospital, they ask me if I'm a veteran. And I'm just walking through the halls. They ask me if I'm a veteran, and I say yes, and they say thank you for your service. This bill thanks the veteran for his, her, they service. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hardy. With that, we'll go ahead and close the hearing on SB 193, and we will get to our next item, which is public comment. So if we could have anyone wishing to give public comment, comments are limited to 2 minutes. So BPS, if we could ask for any of those wishing to give public comment.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to...
I was going to say, I know we have some good news minutes out there, so.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to participate in public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 097, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Brad Keating, B-R-A-D, last name Keating, K-E-A-T-I-N-G, representing the Clark County School District here with a fun, good news minute to end our day. Just wanted to tell you about 2 Nevada students who have been selected to join Senators Catherine Cortez Masto and Senator Jackie Rosen in Washington, D.C. next week virtually to partake in the 59th Annual U.S. Senate Youth Program Washington Week. We are extremely excited about Joanna Bita, a senior at Advanced Technologies Academy in Las Vegas, being chosen, as well as Alexander Wong, a senior at West Career and Technical Academy in Las Vegas. They were chosen over a wide number of individuals. Both students will receive $10,000 college scholarship for undergraduate studies. In other news, because it is this committee and it's important to mention this, Joanna Bita is currently serving as a youth legislator for the Great State Senate District 5, and Alexander Wong is serving as a youth legislator for the Great State Senate District 8. So they have had great people and shoes to fill and great mentors in front of them, and we are just incredibly excited that both students were chosen from the Clark County School District to participate in this program. So congrats to both of them. Thank you.
Dr. Keating, we think that's such a great thing. We announced that last week. We're proud of our youth legislators and the great work that they do. So thank you for we didn't bring it up here though. We brought it up on the floor of the Senate. So it's great to have it here in education. Thank you. All right, let's go on to the next one.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 411, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Lindsay Anderson, L-I-N-D-S-A-Y-A-N-D-E-R-S-O-N, on behalf of the Washoe County School District with a good news minute. In honor of the discussion we had earlier today in committee around the importance of our counselors and social workers, I'm happy to announce that the Nevada Association for Positive Behavior Support has bestowed its Diamond Award for Excellence in PBIS implementation on Kate Smith Elementary School in Sparks. This is the highest possible honor awarded to schools, and it recognizes staff members for their outstanding efforts in realigning their PBIS system to meet CDC and Washoe County School District guidelines to provide a sense of safety, security, and belonging for their staff and students. Congratulations to everyone at Kate Smith Elementary School for their wonderful work. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, can we go to the next one?
Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no more callers at this time.
Okay.
Chair, the public line is open. Oh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Oh, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers at this time.
Great. Thank you very much. All right. we are at the end of our agenda, and we have no further items to come before us. Trying to make sure I didn't miss something that earlier that I should have caught from members. I don't see any hands. So with that, appreciate all your work today. Thank you for all the presenters. And with that, we will bring our Committee on Education, the Senate Committee on Education is now adjourned. Thank you.